Morning, everyone. My name is David Frank. I'm a senior associate with the energy finance team in the Nedbank Corporate and Investment Bank. Um, so I work with energy finance, and obviously, as the title suggests, we fund renewable energy projects across the country as well as the continent. Um, so I thought this morning I'd give you a bit of insight, and I'm sure you've heard quite a bit about this over the last few days, but a bit of insight into the energy sector, both globally and in South Africa specifically, the increasing importance of the energy sector, focusing on the local context, and then what we do at Nedbank to help finance the transition. So obviously we live in a digital world. Energy is important for, what we do on a day-to-day basis. And the rapid deployment of renewable energy assets specifically is increasing in importance. And that's driven by a few factors. Firstly, the increasing demand for electricity. We live in a world with an increasing population as well as increasing electrification of industrial processes. We've also got a bit of a global energy crisis due to the Russia and Ukraine war. It sparked geopolitics and the need for nations to own their own electricity supply. So national security has essentially become quite key, not just, well, not really in South Africa specifically, but mostly in Europe and America. And there's a transition away from oil and gas, which, focused in a few specific geographies to a more decentralized renewable energy system. And then obviously we have the climate crisis, which we know well about, and a need to transition towards a more zero carbon energy system. In South Africa specifically, we have our own problems. Since the early 2000s, since around 2008, we've had issues with load shedding. So we've had 15 years and going of load shedding, and the issues are just getting worse. Over the next 10 years, we have to decommission a large proportion of the coal power plants, and we need to get more energy online. So the cheapest and the least cost solution is renewable energy. South Africa, I like to see this as a bit of an opportunity rather than a problem. I think South Africa has the opportunity to lead the transition to renewable energy. And I think that if we take advantage and create the right environment to do so, we can be a global leader in the space. So renewables, why renewables? It is the least cost solution. It is zero or at least low carbon in nature. And to be honest, we just can't finance new oil and we can't finance new gas and coal power plants. No one's going to give us money to do so. So renewables is pretty much the only option. South Africa has an interesting background with renewable energy. You just heard the IPP office discuss the Renewable Energy Independent Power Producer Program. So Nedbank is a significant funder of that program. We have around 50 billion rand in exposure to the REAP from rounds 1 to rounds 5 and the RMIPP. And we await round 6 to start construction. And the development is, I see South Africa as a very exciting place to be in the energy sector and probably one of the most exciting places to be in the world. If you have the interest in energy and you have legal, engineering, or finance skills, I don't think there's a better place to be in the world, to be honest. And that really comes from this rapid and accelerating transition from sort of government procurements, large REAP rounds towards a more liberal energy market with mostly private off-takers, and as we go forward, a market where we have energy trading on a sort of day ahead or spot market basis, where you can buy electrons over the counter like you do other commodities. So I think the regulatory developments over the last couple of years in South Africa have unlocked a lot of interest in the sector and have unlocked a lot of capital from the private players as well. In 2021, the government changed the regulations to allow private generators to build projects above 1 megawatt in size. And this really led to significant interest from global independent power producers to accelerate their deployment of capital in South Africa specifically. And now we see, from a Nedbank perspective, we were a leader in financing REAP projects with around 50 billion of exposure. We also led the implementation of sort of a portfolio financing structure for rooftop projects, which obviously had private offtake. And now we are leading the space in the corporate and industrial sector, where you have private developers building large-scale utility projects and wheeling that energy to high energy users. So your big mines, your Sasol's, your refineries, etc. I think the key in South Africa and very specific to the local context is how can we transition to a renewable energy system and maintain and keep jobs in those sort of coal-based areas. So obviously, South Africa's energy system has been designed around a centralized generation location in Mpumalanga, Limpopo. So we have a lot of our network is based in those areas, and we have a lot of jobs concentrated in those areas. Renewable energy by nature is quite decentralized. So you have renewable energy projects across the country, and the job opportunities are more dispersed. So how can we transition towards renewable energy and not negatively impact those communities which rely on coal, essentially? And I think that problem is something we should all be involved in solving. So I've discussed Nedbank's position in the REAP embedded generation and now in the growing CNI sector. And I thought I'd just give a bit of background on my journey within the bank and going forward. So I was born in Johannesburg, but studied at UCT. I grew up in Cape Town. And I studied at UCT. I did a business science, finance, and accounting. And then I did a PGDA, postgraduate diploma in accounting, and went on to do my articles at Nedbank. So I was lucky to be able to avoid the auditing routes for articles. Is there anyone here doing their CA articles? No. So Nedbank offer a CA training program, probably the leading program in the country, and it's a 3-year program, and what's great about it is they let you path your journey. So if you go in and you're interested in specific things, they let you pretty much plot your journey throughout the bank. There are positions and rotations available across the Nedbank group. So from group finance functions to where I sit today, which is investment banking, you can pretty much choose your routes. If you have an end destination in mind, choose the way you want to get there, which facilitates you get to know yourself a lot better, and you get to understand exactly what you enjoy to do, and that's a privilege. And I like to say that when you're working in a business unit in the bank, they pretty much throw you in the deep end, but they give you a life jacket. So they'll treat you as an analyst in the team. You're not going to be seen as a graduate. They'll give you the responsibility of an analyst, of a permanent employee, with a view that you'll be staying with the team for the long term. But the line managers generally have significant support for the program and obviously help you in that journey. So I got into the program in my first year. I went to group finance. I worked in financial reporting advisory, so sort of advising on how to account for complex transactions across the group. I then moved into energy in my second year and have been there ever since. I've always been interested in sort of sustainability and infrastructure development. So I like to use my finance skills to build out tangible assets. And renewable energy was the obvious place to be. I was lucky that at the time, the government had just changed the regulations, and so the demand for these assets had increased quite significantly, and the demand for resources in the bank also increased quite significantly. So I was lucky with timing. So what we do in the energy finance team is essentially we deploy project finance principles to finance these projects. project finance is essentially limited or non-recourse finance for the construction and operations of these renewable energy assets. What we do is essentially we lend against the cash flows that these projects will generate. And so what's important is that the cash, you gain assurance over the cash flows, that the cash flows will arise as and when forecast. And because of the non-recourse nature, we don't take recourse against anyone's balance sheets. The security or the security we get is essentially the project assets. So the due diligence around the project assets is also quite key. And I think given the demand for renewable energy and the increasing demand for energy going forward, and obviously the reduction in supply in South Africa, I think there's a significant talent shortage in the industry, both across engineering, legal, and finance. And I think there's significant opportunity to make a difference if you have an interest in the industry. So I'll hand over to Portia, who will discuss our graduate program opportunities.
Thank you, David. Good morning, everyone. It's actually afternoon, hey? Good afternoon. First and foremost, I would like to thank the organizers, the founders of this event. I think it's absolutely an imperative event with an imperative agenda, and for really empowering, the future game changers, what we call at Nedbank, young difference makers. So thank you so much for this. Before I tell you about our graduate trainee program at Nedbank, I would like to share with you why I love working for Nedbank. So I'm a benefactor of the Nedbank trainee program. I joined Nedbank as an intern in 1998. I know most of you were not born by then, right? In 1998. And some of the highlights of my memories with Nedbank is, firstly, when I joined. I've been with them now for 12 years because I left in between and came back and left again and came back. That's a story for another day. The fact is I'm now back for 12 years or so. One of the highlights of working for Nedbank is that I've grown through the ranks. So I am a testimony of how Nedbank invests in their own talent to grow their own talent. In 2012, I was very privileged to be sent to a VETS executive development program, where part of the program we attended classes at the London Business School, as well as the India Institute of Business Management. Also in 2019, I was very privileged to also be sent to the INSEAD Business School in France, as well as in Singapore. So this gives you a feel and a bit of color of what it's like working for Nedbank, really in terms of growing and investing in our talent. It is something that is a business imperative, and it is something that when you come to work for Nedbank, you will certainly experience. Okay, now I have to use this. Now, in terms of the graduate training programs, we've got two graduate training programs. We've got our general graduate training program, what we call the Young Analyst NCIB. NCIB stands for Nedbank Corporate Investment Banking, and it's part of Nedbank Young Analyst Program. And it is we offer you a permanent role from the onset, and you're in the program for 2 years. And we've got built-in rotation, like David shared earlier. He went through different business units, finance, and the likes for 2 years, so that you can get to also understand where your strengths are and where your career choices and preferences are. And you can, after the 2 years, you can make that choice. As part of the program, you are assigned a senior mentorship, senior member of the team, and also a peer buddy. Working for the bank, you also get to be given staff rates. So when you buy that first car, when you get your home loan, you get preferential staff rates and other discounts for lifestyle products and services. We also offer flexible work practices, and as part of, from the first year, you're also eligible for a performance bonus. So you get performance bonus, which we pay out every year in March. And as a young analyst as well, you will get to be assigned a CSI project that you will work with your team, because at Nedbank, we believe in giving to the communities where we do business. In terms of how and when to apply, we go to the market very early. For example, where are we now? We are in November. We have already issued our letters, offer letters for the young analysts joining us for 2024. So we go to the market in around May, we close around July. By September, we already issue out letters of appointment, offer letters. How to apply? I've shared the details there of the website that you can visit. Even now, you can visit it. It will tell you a little bit more about the Young Analyst Grad Program. If you've got questions or queries, you can also send your queries to the email address showing now on the screen. In terms of the requirements, overall, we look for an average passing rate of 65 across all the years of study. And the academic qualifications that we look for, they are those listed in the screen. But for the purpose of this event, for energy financing, we look at the financial qualifications in finance, of course, engineering, and legal. I think those are the essentials. You've heard how complex this project in energy infrastructure can be, and they require a lot of legal expertise as well. That's why the legal qualifications are important. And all the other qualifications that you see on the screen are very important, because we are a very big business with other focus areas. Now, the Nedbank CA trainee program, David was benefactor of this program. He came through this program. Also a very, very top of its class program. It has been in existence since 1997. And yeah, we basically help the graduate obtain the required competencies and skills towards qualifying as chartered accountants. It's a 3-year rotational program. We have in the program 100% of retention. So if you come to Nedbank on this program, you will certainly be retained. And we have the pass rates exceeding the national average. In fact, you can see from the board exam 1 and the board exam 2, those are some of the top students, and they are with Nedbank. And Nedbank CA trainee program as well, it has received the #1 accreditation rating from SAICA for the last 4 years. And we are a donor as well to the Tutuka Educational Upliftment Fund in terms of helping transform this industry and financing the education for students from previously disadvantaged backgrounds. When and how to apply. The application opens 1st of February 2024 and closes at the end of February. And how to apply, that is our website where you can apply. For any questions or queries, you can send to the email address that you are seeing on the screen. As well, similar to the Young Analyst Program, we also have a academic average requirement pass rate of 65%. And generally, how to get career opportunities at Nedbank. We have the careers page, jobs at Nedbank, jobs.nedbank.co.za. So you can apply for job opportunities at Nedbank. In investment banking, in terms of the career ladder, we have analysts, we've got associate, senior associate, associate principal roles, and of course the executive level roles. But this is where you can go if you know your friends. This is where you can go to see the job opportunities that we offer at Nedbank. Thank you.